Importantly, he is a serial woman abuser, the likes of which we haven't seen in modern America, at least not on the public stage in this way. He is a repeated serial abuser. He beat those women to a pulp and didn't even deny it. He didn't deny it. They admitted expressly domestic abuse over and over and over again, something the judge used against them when they pled for.
The gray suit hung on him like it belonged to another man, loose, shapeless, and foreign. Sean Diddy Combs, once a master of stages and boardrooms, stood trembling in the only arena where swagger carried no weight. His hands clenched, the defense table until his knuckles whitened, his voice breaking into fragments as he addressed the court. It wasn't a speech, it was an unraveling. He begged for mercy, for leniency, for anything to keep him from the metallic slam of a prison gate. The booming voice that once commanded sold-out crowds was reduced to a thin, quivering thread, collapsing beneath the judge's unreadable stare. The room held its breath. Every gaze was fixed on Combs as he spoke of regret, of lessons learned, of his children and his legacy, naming them as if their mention might somehow halt the gavel, already mid-swing. But mercy was never coming. Judge Aaron Subramanian. S-words cut through the silence. 16 years. The shock was instant gasps from the gallery, stunned stillness from his own legal team. There was no trafficking conviction, no racketeering charge, but it didn't matter. The myth had collapsed. The brand, once untouchable, at the pinnacle of music and fashion, had been decapitated. 16. The number echoed louder than any of his hits. Bail was denied. Bond denied. Even the $50 million offer his team dangled was swept aside. The judge pointed to grainy footage from 2016, the mute testimony of Cassie Ventura's bruised silence, and the long shadows trailing Combs for years. The empire built on champagne, profits, and flawless PR had been reduced to rubble.
Same thing for Jeffrey Epstein. Now, the interesting thing about the Epstein and the theory about Epstein is we know he filmed people for sure on that island. He has a lot of movies, a lot of films of people that are very, very powerful political figures, and entertainers, business people. So, do you really believe that Jeffrey Epstein himself? Of course not. Of course not.
And here's where the story tilts. Behind the spectacle of the sentencing, under the roar of headlines and outrage, a quieter storm has been building. Former staffers, shadow operators, even an anonymous road manager whispering the same thing. This wasn't just a fall from grace, it was a push, a setup, a game far bigger than Combs himself, and the name circling back into view. Epstein, yes, that Epstein. Insiders claim Diddy's sudden arrest and denied bail could be collateral damage. In a dirtier war, one where the FBI isn't chasing justice so much as names, the rumors multiply. Combs holding tapes, receipts, perhaps a roster of people well beyond the music industry. His infamous parties, allegedly stocked with Hollywood elites and billionaires, may have been more than decadent excess. The theory, the feds aren't after him because he's the endgame, but because he's the trail. This isn't about what Diddy did, it's about who he can burn. One industry veteran said, no comment from his label, no denial from the government, just silence. And in cases like this, silence is thunder. Combs isn't naive, he knows the rules. And according to 3 people in his inner circle, he's no longer just pleading with the courts, he's appealing to power. Enter Donald Trump, the same man who once partied with him, called him a good friend, and defended him on The Apprentice. Now, Trump may hold what Combs' allies see as their last chess move, a pardon.
It's more difficult. It makes it more, I'm being honest, it makes it more difficult to do.
But more likely a no for Combs.
But here's where the plot takes its sharpest turn. While Trump is reportedly weighing the idea of handing Combs that golden ticket, he's also making it crystal clear, this isn't mercy, it's leverage. This is Trump in full kingmaker mode, Sharpie in hand, savoring the power to decide another man's fate. Speaking to Newsmax just last week, he mused, it makes it more difficult to do. A pointed nod to Combs' jabs from 2017 and his very public endorsement of Biden in 2020. Back then, Diddy said Trump needed to be banished. Now, in the strangest twist of political theater, he needs Trump to save him. Call it karma, call it politics, either way. The irony is so thick you could cut it with the pen Trump's already twirling.
Now is going through a number of different reasons. Again, very quick reporting indicates that the judge is citing to the defense attorney's own statements during the case that Sean Combs is a violent person, has had violent personal relationships. But of course, the defense said that doesn't mean he's guilty of racketeering. It looks like the judge is now using those statements to say
the whole thing is less about justice and more about ego on parade, fresh off wriggling out of his own legal storms. Trump isn't looking at Combs as a friend in trouble, he's eyeing him like a trophy to mount. In public, he offers a half sort of innocent, as if that's the fullest charity he can muster. Yet the pardon still dangles, not out of compassion, but out of a love for spectacle. For Trump, freeing Combs would be a headline grabber, a diversion from the Epstein files the public keeps chanting for, and a calculated shot at earning goodwill in entertainment circles that once treated him like an uninvited guest.
Did you ever have the opportunity where you got invited and you said no to it?
Hell yeah.
What was the
Hell
consequences
yeah.
when you said no?
Puffy invited me for weeks, asking me to come and teach him how to, wanted me to be his acting coach for a while. Go there and he's sitting around just looking. I'm like, okay, what's the material you want to work on?
And that pardon, if it ever lands, won't be charity, it'll be a transaction. Word from inside Combs' circle says the price tag could be humiliating, public groveling, a televised apology, maybe even a fat check to a Trump-adjacent cause. One insider swears Trump's demand is literal kiss, the ring on camera, humiliation as currency. And judging by how Combs is moving now, entertaining visits from go-betweens he once ignored, he might just pay it. Because here's the truth, Combs is scared. Those who've seen him up close say the bravado's gone, the mogul's gone. What's left is a man in survival mode. Jail staff keep him isolated after threats from other inmates. He's dropped weight, and while his legal team keeps firing off appeals and motions, the reality is, grim, he's a high-profile inmate in a place crawling with roaches, violence, and guards who like to test limits. It's the kind of place that doesn't just punish you, it erases you.
Look at Diddy, for instance. Let's take a look at him. Let's take a look at. He has videos. He has videos of the parties. Now, what I've heard, which I don't know how much of it is in mainstream media, I don't really follow the story that much. But what I've heard from friends that are attorneys, friends of mine, that have represented me before, agents and so on, is there's a bidding war.
Which brings us to the elephant still pacing the room. If Diddy's really holding something on someone, how long before he plays that card? Former allies are ghosting each other, scrubbing photos, unfollowing accounts, cutting ties like rats, bailing off a luxury yacht. The whispers say the feds aren't just looking to punish him, they're looking to flip him. They want names, not small names. Names that rattle boardrooms and clear out country clubs. One ex-club promoter didn't mince words. If Diddy talks, people disappear. Layer in the Epstein static. Plus Trump's insistence he was never briefed on his own presence in Epstein's files despite the Wall Street Journal's reporting, and you've got a countdown on who gets fed to the wolves first. He may be convicted, but irrelevant. Not even close. Some argue he's more dangerous than ever. Sources say the FBI's quietly turned up the heat on several of Combs' old associates. Subpoenas are prepped, surveillance is live, and more. Then one insider claims his camp got a thinly veiled proposition. Give us something, maybe we give you something back. No documents, no official trail, but enough whispers to make it clear. This isn't justice, this is chess with live ammo.
They immediately honed in on racketeering and they started saying, why is this racketeering with one guy? And they're charging this one guy. They had a real problem with that. They did not have a problem with the Mann Act. They found him guilty of the Mann Act. And they hung 6 to 6 on.
The desperation is almost choking now. He's thrown everything at the court, tens of millions in bond. Ankle monitors, surrendering passports, agreeing to vanish into house arrest, and every time, the answer's the same. No, judges see risk, they see danger, and maybe, just maybe, they see leverage. Because let's not kid ourselves, this case isn't spotless. Prosecutors botched the big-ticket charges. Lead prosecutor Maureen Camillas, that Camilla's daughter was shown the door not long after the verdict, with zero public explanation. And she didn't go quietly either. She left with a parting shot sharp enough to draw blood. Fear is the tool of a tyrant. You tell us, was that aimed at Combs, or someone towering above him?
He can't stand you, Mr. President. He was once nice to you, he's turned on you, and he doesn't deserve a favor from you, who he worked actively to stop.
And that lands us right back at Trump, the man gripping the keys. The same man who, in front of live cameras, bragged that his pardons are really just loyalty quizzes. Even tossing out that George Santos, who lied more than he inhaled, was 100% for Trump and may be worthy of one. And Diddy, he made some terrible statements. Trump said, not about alleged crimes, about words. So here we are, a fallen mogul, rotting in a Brooklyn cell. The judge's gavel still echoing, a pardon swaying in front of him like bait on a hook. Rumors drip like oil that somewhere, someone is working overtime to either muzzle him forever, or push him to finally spill. Outside the courthouse, the tremors hit fast. Revolt TV, once his bulletproof answer to the media gatekeepers, began hemorrhaging top talent. Sponsors ghosted without a press release. Big brands stripped his name. From campaigns like it was radioactive, champagne labels he once raised on stage are gone. Fashion houses that used to trip over themselves for his attention now act like they've never heard of him. In LA, a longtime associate muttered, "Nobody wants to be the last one defending him when the ceiling gives way and it's already buckling."
And then what's the stuff that's happening with Wendy Williams? Do you think this is all connection to? Of course.
His fashion empire, once a crown jewel of streetwear, is now nothing more than a fading logo in dusty shop windows. Warehouses sit in limbo, racks half filled, while unpaid suppliers call in lawyers and investors yank their money before the fire reaches their portfolios. The implosion is so swift, so absolute. It sparked a chilling debate among industry insiders. Was this a natural downfall or a calculated erasure? Did someone somewhere decide it was time to wipe Sean Combs off the map? The whispers won't quit. This isn't just about crimes on paper. It's about stripping him of influence. Not because of what he's done, but because of what he might be holding.
Footage, supposedly. This is what I'm told. So it's going to be really interesting to see what happens if, you're a huge iconic, TV star or movie star, and you're in some...
Which brings us to what insiders have started calling the secret list. For years, rumors shadowed Diddy about a hidden cache private footage, encrypted files, entire drives locked away as a personal insurance policy against betrayal. A former bad boy assistant, now living abroad, swears he called them his safeguards. Not gold, not stocks information. Allegedly, it's recordings from notorious parties, hushed conversations, even confessions caught without consent, with names, faces, and times. And if those files connect high-profile entertainers, billionaires, and political power players to the same dark ecosystem that consumed Epstein, it could explain the sudden, suffocating pressure from federal agents behind closed doors. The FBI won't confirm, but they won't deny either, and their unusual silence has rattled what's left of Combs's inner circle. One ex-bodyguard reportedly fled to Dubai after a subpoena landed. A former fixer has gone completely off, wiping all online traces. This isn't just about Combs anymore, it's about the collateral damage if those files see daylight. As one music executive whispered off the record on a podcast, they don't want him talking. They want him boxed.
The flight where Diddy said to her, he testified that he showed her a video of a freak-off that she participated in and said, if you don't participate in another freak-off when we get to New York, I'm going to put this video out. I'm going to send it to your mother.
And that's coercion.
She testified
if it's true.
to that.
If the jury
believed her.
So maybe this is the real reason Combs hasn't flipped on loyalty. Not pride, but cold calculation. Because if he unloads what he's holding, the blast radius won't stop at the music industry, it could go nuclear. Picture the unreleased footage from those infamous freak-off parties finally surfacing. Blurred faces unblurred, redacted names suddenly readable. Timelines stitched together that don't just link Combs and Epstein, but loop in people still strutting down red carpets, still shaking hands in boardrooms, still pulling strings in politics and media. This wouldn't just collapse a few careers, it could detonate entire empires. And maybe that's why he's still silent. Not because he has nothing to say, but because he knows exactly how loud it would be if he did.
I experienced with him were monster-like. That stuff almost destroyed my life.
Speculation is now running at a fever pitch. Reports say Combs has turned down multiple offers to cooperate with prosecutors' flat refusals, even when the deals could have shaved years off his sentence. Insiders claim he won't even entertain questions about certain topics, especially those tied to late-night gatherings at overseas estates, private islands, or flights on jets that somehow never made it into official logs. What's on those tapes? Who's on those guest lists? Nobody outside his tightest circle knows for sure, but the fear is thick fear that he might talk, or worse, leak. And while the legal war rages, the personal betrayals cut just as deep. Former protégés are freezing him out. People whose careers were built under his shadow are now serving up clipped soundbites or awkward silences. Cassie Ventura, once the loyal partner, became the prosecution's emotional linchpin. Even artists who once called him a mentor are acting like his name is toxic. In the brutal economy of music and power, loyalty evaporates faster than relevance, and right now, Combs has neither.
I'm sorry, I'm just I'm in this moment right now. This is crazy. Sorry. People don't really know how much what it does to you when something that you love is taken from you and thrown away like it don't even matter, and then they move on with their lives and you're stuck. You're stuck. During those years, you're still stuck 21 years.
Cassie's choice to take the stand wasn't merely a personal confrontation, it was a cultural rupture. For years, she had been a quiet fixture in the shadows of Diddy's empire, a name often mentioned but rarely heard. In court, she became the trial's most arresting presence, transforming private wounds into public testimony. Her account layered with vivid memories of emotional manipulation, calculated isolation, and tightening control sketched a pattern of abuse that felt bigger than any single relationship. In an industry where power often hides behind settlements and the gag order of NDAs, her words landed like a blade splitting the silence. But it wasn't only the content of her testimony that shook the room, it was the years it had taken to speak, and the way her voice ignited others to step forward from the shadows.
And what's really going to be interesting is the parade of celebrities who we expect to be mentioned and or called into that courtroom. You know, people who we hadn't heard about prior, like Mike Myers, you know, Austin Powers, Mike Myers. Why is he getting called? Why is he on the witness list? That'll be fascinating. And then, of course, there are the no-name, quote unquote, women who are going to have to find every ounce of courage.
For many, Cassie became the face of a truth. The entertainment industry has long buried that power. Charisma and the label of genius have been used as camouflage for abuse. Her testimony didn't just dent Diddy's image, it obliterated the myth of his invincibility. What once lived in the realm of gossip blogs and whispered NDA rumors hit the courtroom with the weight of legal evidence. This was no longer scandal, for Sportit was a case study in survival, in recognizing patterns, in measuring the cost of unchecked influence. As more accusers aligned their stories with Cassie's, the prosecution's case stopped being about petty disputes and started feeling like a reckoning. Her presence marked a turning point in how celebrity accountability is perceived, as she didn't just show up with proof. She carried an emotional authenticity that a jury could feel in their bones, and with every word, she forced the public to wonder how many women like her had been erased, ignored, or bought into silence. That authenticity didn't just change the trial, it helped redefine what justice looks like when the accused sits on a throne of fame. But while her courage cracked the foundation, the feeding frenzy began. 50 Cent, ever the opportunist, is gleefully roasting Diddy on social media, calling the trial justice with a delay. Meanwhile, industry sharks are moving and buying up abandoned ventures, circling his market share in media and nightlife, rebuilding the ecosystem that once revolved around him without him in it. It's cold, it's calculated, and it's the final insult. The empire doesn't just crumble, it gets looted.
Pardoning Diddy will create another Epstein for him. It would be a nightmare. And last and certainly not least, the GOP is already struggling with female voters. And they're not all lefties. There are young conservative women who aren't in love with Trump or MAGA. There are. And this will not help. It's very clear. We all saw the videotape of him beating them.
But the real storm might not have hit yet. Word from inside the Metropolitan Detention Center claims Combs has quietly requested a secure laptop, not to pen memoirs or launch a prison podcast, but allegedly to craft a statement meant for the history books. Whether it's a bluff or the prelude to going nuclear before sentencing is anyone's guess. What isn't guesswork is a leaked email between two federal prosecutors expressing serious concern over the contents of the defendant's digital archives and the catastrophic fallout if anything were to leak without authorization. That's not rumor mill chatter, that's fear, logged in black and white.
I don't know this, but it just seems very suspicious when you go through and you look at in the history of different people that can make you go away if you know. Listen, I've worried about some of the things that I talk about.
Fresh whispers, still unverified claim foreign media outlets are dangling multi-million-dollar offers for exclusive rights to whatever Combs might decide to leak. Could this go global? Could he pull a Snowden-style document dump that shakes Hollywood to its core and ripples far beyond? If it happens, it won't be out of altruism, it'll be because he's got nothing left to lose. Which circles us back to the real question, how far will they let him drop before cutting a deal? 16 years sounds like a sentence, but for a man like Combs, the breaking point comes fast. And when it comes, it's never quiet, it's a landslide. There's even a darker theory making the rounds that he's being kept alive, not out of mercy, but because of what he knows, that somewhere, someone with power may be in government. Maybe another untouchable player is making sure he stays just safe enough to keep his mouth shut until they decide otherwise. If true, this trial, this verdict, even the denial of bail, isn't punishment, it's containment. Controlled silence. And every day the clock ticks. We edge closer to a crossroads. Will Diddy go to his grave, locked up with his secrets, or will he light the fuse and watch everything burn? Because this isn't just one man's downfall, it's a system terrified of the wreckage he could unleash. So, what's your take? Is Sean Diddy Combs simply a disgraced mogul paying the price? Or is he the final barrier between the public and a truth too volatile to reveal? Think hard and buckle up. This ride is nowhere near over.